Yes, Spring. We're going live right now. Sorry, we're going live. That's all there is to it. Hey guys, so Spring doesn't want to go live today, but doesn't matter. So hope everybody is well, and so first, well, no, I guess this isn't the first live stream in November because it's still October. It's October 31st, Halloween. If you're doing any festivities for Halloween today, I hope you do it safely and have fun and all that good stuff. If not, then, well, don't. So my son Joshua is dressed up as Vega today from Street Fighter. He made his own costume from scratch, and I have to say it's pretty impressive. I mean, he made the claws, the mask. He put together. I mean, he's been learning how to do like body paint, so that like he wears this open, like roughly shirt, and he paints a dragon tattoo on himself, and I mean, very impressive. So, yeah, that's been his obsession for the last few months has been trying to perfect this Vega costume, or Vegas. Vegas? Sorry, I'm not a Street Fighter guy. Anyway, so that's been his thing. And then, but I am not doing anything for Halloween this year. Not that I'm opposed to it or anything. I'm not, I'm not one of those Christians that thinks that if you put on a silly costume and go to a party or put on a silly costume and ask your neighbors for candy, that somehow makes you a devil worshiper. Um, that's not how it works. And honestly, yeah, it's about as ludicrous as people that think that going to church twice a year makes you a devout Christian. So, yeah. Anyway, Bradley's first in the chat. Good to see you, Bradley. Hope you are doing well this morning. So I don't have a particular agenda set up for this morning other than just being back on this morning. I'll tell you, this last week was a little rough for me. Obviously last Sunday I did not do a live stream. That was only because of technical problems with the computer of my own creation, because I replaced the graphics card in the computer and it took me way too long to get the stupid card replaced. So I used the money that I got to replace the dead computer to just get some upgrades for this computer. So I got replacement graphics cards. I actually replaced the monitors for the computer because I was actually using really cheap TVs instead of monitors, and I decided, well, I'm going to actually use monitors. They're more energy efficient and better for the eyes and all that kind of thing. And so I figured I'd get a couple of actual monitors. And so trying to get all this stuff set up over the weekend, and then follow that up with our, which took me way more energy than I was expecting, and then follow that up with our cross-country trek to Metropolis, which, if you saw, I posted a little 12-second video on the channel about. And that did me in for the week. I was an absolute wreck. I got a migraine and what feels like an ear infection now, and just been under the weather ever since. And it's like, dang, and so that's got us kind of rethinking things a little bit. And CD's in the house, Trustin's here, and Dinner Bell's all checking in. Good to see you guys. So here's where kind of the conundrum we run into, and this is where you want to be prayerful and you want to be thoughtful about making major life decisions, because Okay, so we had pretty much made up our mind that we were going to move to Metropolis. That was the idea that I came up with, right? And it seemed like Metropolis was a good idea for a couple of reasons. A, real estate cheap. Uh, B, it seems to be within driving distance of here, so we could continue to go to church here. The first house that we looked at there was driving distance about 2.5 hours. So yeah, long drive, but drivable. And C, certain herbal remedies that could help me deal with the pain that I've been experiencing due to the MS are legal there that aren't legal here. Then we went through this last week and realized, because this was our first real long drive since my symptoms have gotten to this level. And I think that was a wake up call to exactly what we're looking at if we're going to be driving that kind of a distance 2-3 times a week. And realistically, if we're going to be 2.5 hours away from church, we ain't driving down here 3 times a week, right? We'll be lucky if we'll be driving down here 3 times a month. So we need to stop and reassess the situation and prioritize what's more important. And so we're going to try to see if there's any way we can find something that's a little closer in. On the flip side of that, and this is the part being up in Metropolis that, for the few hours that we were up there, I gotta say, I would love to live there, because there's something when we got out of the car up there, something that I smelled that I had not smelled in a very, very long time. Not since, gosh, probably the 1990s. And hey, Captain Trek. And that is, and it's a very unique scent. It's something that it's hard to explain really, but it's the scent, not just clean air, but the scent of clean air to where there's no large population centers within, say, 100 miles of you. Like, you're not just in, it's not just that you're, in a not smoggy area, but that you're not even within 100 miles of a city, right? Because Metropolis itself is only population like 6,500 people. St. Louis is a long ways away. Chicago is a long ways away. Nashville is a long ways away. All the major cities are a long ways away. By the way, Captain Trek, you asked me to talk to you. I sent you a message on Twitter, and you didn't answer, so I don't know what happened, but just want to let you know I did reach out to you. I don't know if we just didn't cross paths properly, but I was hoping that we would be able to communicate. So that was something that and I think part of it is because I grew up in the country, growing up on a ranch. It's being away from the city, not just out of the city, but away from the city, a distance from the city, far enough to where you can't smell the city, is so nice. And I haven't had that scent in so long, and that was that was the thing, is I would love to live there if nothing else, just for that. But I also understand that that wouldn't be fair to drag my family through that just for me. That would be selfish to me to make my family suffer through that long drive and everything just because I like the way the town smells. That's like, that's the ultimate in selfishness, and I'm not going to do that. So instead, we're going to start to see if we can find something that'll be closer, and we won't be able to find as nice a house at as low a price if we bring the search in closer to where we currently live. But if we can get that drive time down to an hour and a half, it'll make a huge difference. And so that's what we're gonna, because that long drive wore us all out. But for me, it laid me up for the better part of the week. And I don't, that's, yeah. Um, anyway, so that's, so I apologize that I didn't really do much, as far as, like Lore Reloaded and I didn't do our stream. We were set to do it, but I asked Lore if it was okay with him if I bowed out because I wasn't feeling well, and Lore was very gracious to me about it. And so, and I'll be honest with you, Friday night I had a lot of fun hanging out with John DeMarco and Matthew, but it was a strain for me to do that. Um, so yeah, I don't think it would be, it just wouldn't make sense to do that. And in the Bible study that I do with a couple of you out there, um, we're currently in the book of Nehemiah, and part of the importance of in Nehemiah is to have a plan. And one of the things you should look at is to carefully weigh the costs of something, and if moving to that town would cause that level of heartache on a regular basis, then we shouldn't move to that town. Not unless that we had no other choice. So instead, we're going to look at other options for right now. As much as I would love to live there, the town was nice, and we'll probably visit it every now and then. Maybe go to the Superman Festival or whatever. And as far as the driving, I drove up. My wife drove back, so we shared the duties. And it's not the worst drive, honestly. And if you had adaptive cruise control, that would help. But at the same time, like that's one thing we were talking about doing, is that if we were to do this, when we sell the house, we would want to try to find a house that we could purchase with the equity in this house. In addition to that, get a new car that has adaptive cruise control. Or intelligent cruise control with lane assist and all that, so that the car basically drives itself most of the trip. But you are still driving through, because in order to get from Metropolis to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, you have to drive right through Nashville, which, there are some cities that are easy to drive through. Nashville ain't one of them. The freeway system in Nashville is, yeah, yeah, just not a Nashville is one of those cities where if you're on the freeway, and let's just say you're on Highway 24 going through Nashville, good freaking luck, because it's like, okay, so you got to be in the right lane. Oh no, you got to be in the left lane. Nope, you got to be in the third from the right lane. Now you got to be on the second from the left lane. Now you got to be in the middle lane. It's just crazy, where you're always having to, and yeah, just it's horribly designed. And BK, let's see. BK Dan says, "Happy Sunday. Sorry, I'm not kept up. How's go showing Matthew Star Trek movies? Which one you on?" Actually, it's been a lot of fun, BK. And thank you. It's okay, we don't take roll call around here. By the way, so as far as the stuff with Matthew, it's we watched Star Trek 1, 2, and 3, and it's funny because I do think Matthew grossly underestimated how good Star Trek 3 was. And then this last Friday, we actually took a break and had a little Halloween special where we watched The Happening. And that was fun because The Happening is one of the worst horror movies ever made. And then next week we go back to the Star Trek countdown with 4, 5, and 6, and 5. I did manage to secure the ultra rare Star Trek 5, the Kuroga cut. So just so you know, that will at least improve it. Um, and and man, Captain Trek, that sucks if you had spammers in your stream. I hate when that happens. Um, Man, those people just, it's funny. The YouTube algorithm does wonders to manage to keep channels from growing, or to manage to keep various political opinions from being able to be successful on YouTube. But they can't seem to stop people from calling their YouTube account things like, sexy hot webcams, and then posting 75 comments on your channel. Really? Yeah, sure. Um, anyway, if I sound grumpy, it's because I might be a little grumpy. So, um, and yeah, M. Night Shyamalan's Dinner Bells. The Happening, in my opinion, is M. Night Shyamalan. To be fair, let me make this clear. I've never been a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I've never seen the M. Night Shyamalan film Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I do not know anything about it, and I've heard it's an absolute nightmare. However, for me personally, The Happening is Shyamalan's worst film. Um, and so, just with the caveat that I've never seen Last Airbender, because that's a franchise I've never really had much interest in. Um, and, just because I never watched the anime, and in turn, never watched the movie. Because the trailers for the movie didn't look all that interesting to me. And then when the reviews started coming out, it sounded even less interesting to me. BK says, I started hanging out to you and I introduced my son to Stargate series after all 17 seasons of the main show and 2 spin-offs. Yeah. Village is up there. You know what? The Village is not great, but it's not The Happening level bad. I mean, I just don't think that. Yeah, hot dogs. Hot dogs do get a bad rap. Um, so, um, and BK says you can sound grumpy, just don't sound sneezy. That'll make for bad audio. Well, I'll try not to. But if I have Laura on, he can be Dopey, and we can get Dr. Alex. He'll be Doc. We'll just get all the 7 dwarves on. Um, so the oh man, um, I don't know. This is gonna be a weird day. I can tell. Skip old. It might be worse. Well, I don't know. You say it might be worse. It might be good. Um, so Searcher says, I think the only movie he made that I can sit through is Unbreakable. Have you not seen The Sixth Sense? I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, if you, looking at, and we're just not going to get into um, any meaningful topics today, are we? So if we look at M. Night's IMDb page, I'm bringing it up right now. I don't care about. Let's look at he's directed 19 films, although one of them has, well, two of them have not come out yet. That's a TV series that I have not seen. Alright, so, okay, an old I have not seen. So, but let's start with the very first. So, Praying with Anger, I have not seen. Wide Awake, I have not seen. The Sixth Sense, I think, was great. Unbreakable, I think, was great. Signs, I think, was good. The Village, I think, was Lady in the Water, I think, was okay. The Happening, I think, was crap. The Last Airbender, I think, was I didn't see it. After Earth, I didn't see it. Wayward Pines is a TV series, and I did not see it. The Visit, I did not see it. Rise Up, Inspiration version, it's a video short, I did not see it. Glass, I thought was really, really good. And Old, I did not see it. I don't see Split in here. Did he not direct Split? Yeah, Split. Okay. I went right past it. Split. I like Split. So he's got a better track record than some directors. So it's not like his record is horrible. I mean, it's just the problem is that you think about those horrible movies. Robert says, still to this day, we still haven't gotten a sequel to Christine or The Car. Well, yeah, but neither of those are Shyamalan films, so. Saoirse says, I did not like The Sixth Sense myself. Well, then that's your problem. That shows that you're wrong. Jeez. Clearly, you're wrong if you don't like The Sixth Sense. Let's see. Indy Tiger says, good morning, Saltines. How you doing, Indy? BK says, sorry to be off topic. Just trying to inject humor where it may be needed. Oh, that's all good, BK. Keep me talking. Otherwise, Grandpa falls asleep and, things go to crap. I hated Old. Concept of potential, but even the acting was horrible. Well, you say the acting was horrible. How would you compare it to, say, the acting in The Happening? Because The Happening, to me, is some of the worst acting in a major budget in a big budget film ever. Did Sneezy ever sneeze in the film? I don't even remember the last time I saw Snow White, but I don't think so. Not a fan of gotcha films, so once you know the ending, it's hard to watch again. Well, first of all, don't spoil it, because I do think that the ending of The Sixth Sense is so unique that it's worth it. But I will say this. Certain ones I agree, but other ones I think that if they're well crafted, which I think The Sixth Sense is, if they're well crafted, they're worth at least a second watch just to see all the subtle things that were put into the film to lead you in the right direction that you missed the first time. And some people don't like that because they feel like, oh, the movie's trying to make me feel like an idiot because, oh, look at all these clues that the movie put in that I didn't catch, and so now I feel stupid. But to me, I think it makes me feel like, wow, that's really funny that all the signs were there and I just didn't pick it up. Um, and it just goes to show that, but then the movie is about something that generally is not something that we would assume in normal everyday life, right? Watch the series Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the movie. The movie is terrible. Well, Indy, I'm not going to watch the series either. I'm not, you know, I'm not a big anime guy. Um, and BK says humor is one of his best inventions. That is true. The toxins affecting them? Yes, indeed. Bird says, isn't this supposed to be about church? Yeah, it's supposed to be, but, sometimes church is fellowship day, I guess. And Stanley says, and Unbreakable is great. I agree. I think Unbreakable is great. Um, Aberjam is in the house. Says, good morning. I was watching Short Circuit and listening to Tiny Tempath and suddenly got the urge to check the channel Salty Trekker. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, Aberjam. Aberjam. We might, Bradley says, Church of Salty Checker, where we talk about whatever comes up at the time. Well, sometimes we talk about deep, heavy religious topics, and sometimes we talk about M. Night Shyamalan. BK says, I love Sixth Sense. The clues and Easter eggs, the ending were awesomeness. See, I tend to agree with you on that. Bird says, I have a cold and feel miserable. Why has God forsaken me? I thought he would welcome the advice I had in running the universe. Well, maybe you should stop trying to give him advice. Johnny 5 is alive. Stanley says, is M. Night Islamic? If you were asking if he is a Muslim, as far as I know, he is not, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I've never asked him what his religious beliefs were. But he, I have no idea what his religious upbringing is or what he currently believes. Aberjam says, missed you last week. How you been? I'm hanging in there. I'm not going to lie. I feel like crap. But on the mend, as you guys would say. So better now than I was a couple of days ago. The ending credit scene of the car even sets it up for a sequel where it shows the underneath of a car driving around a major city somewhere. Well, the problem with just a random sentient piece of driving equipment is that, I mean, how much can you really do with it? I like I liked Christine. I liked the car. I actually think one of the best of those types of movies, like the Mystery Machine on the Road, is Duel, and there may Duel isn't really about a sentient truck as much as just a crazy trucker, but you never see the crazy trucker, I don't think. Um, but what more are you gonna do after the first movie? Oh, look, the car is still killing people. Um, if he didn't want my advice, why did he give me so many good ideas? He obviously didn't. I think M9 is agnostic. Well, like I said, I don't know. I haven't heard him say it. but that's between him and God. As Douglas Adams says, in the beginning, the universe was made. To some, it seemed like a bad idea. Yeah, it was seen as a bad idea. Yes, indeed. Just wonder if he made his religion public and if it influences films. I would not doubt that it influences his films in some way, just because, everybody's core beliefs as far as their theological beliefs here. See, we finally got to some kind of religious topic. Everybody's theological beliefs influences them. Like if you're a creative person, it does influence your creation in some way. It may not be a profound influence. Like, it's not like if you're writing a story, like, for example, Indy Tiger is a non-believer, and I'm not saying that to be insulting, it's just a fact about him, right? And so that doesn't mean that anytime Indy Tiger, if he's writing a story, is going to have all the main characters walking around saying, well, God clearly doesn't exist, but that his perspective as a non-believer is going to in some way influence the way that he crafts that story. On the flip side, as a believer, it's going to affect exactly, even on a subconscious level. On the other hand, as a believer, if I'm crafting the exact same type of story, it's going to affect my rendering of a story in the same genre of the same type. Now, that's one of the reasons I'm a big proponent of, if you're going to do a story, particularly a story that deals with a huge dichotomy of opposing factions, like, people like to say, well, this is like Game of Thrones in space, or Game of Thrones, so let's say you're going to try to do that. Your goal is to make Game of Thrones in space, where you have different warring factions and stuff like that. And you want to make one of them a theistic group and one of them an atheistic group. Well, you want to make sure that you bring in writers that do not just, oh, this is a writer that's an atheist and this is a writer that's a theist, but this is a writer who actually has some understanding of the philosophy behind atheism and stuff like that. Not just an atheist, but an expert on atheism who is an atheist. And then not just a theist, but an educated theist who understands theism, right? And so that the two of them can help guide the writing of these characters to be more realistic, because what we tend to see in these stories is that one side or the other tends to get shortchanged, right? And you can usually tell which side just based on the writing. If the writers, whoever wrote the story, is more inclined to believing, then the atheists kind of come across as simplistic and idiotic, and making atheistic arguments that and only an idiot would make. If the writers have a tendency to be non-believers, then it's the opposite. Then the believers of whatever it may be, it may not be Christianity, but the religious believers or adherents usually tend to be insane and zealots, and believing in things that no sane person would believe. Anyway, let's see. I'm not an anime fan either. I love Avatar because it's not anime. Martial arts faithfully reproduced from actual martial arts styles, beautiful art styles, kids acting like kids. It's just not my thing, but hey, if you like it, that's awesome. Love Christine to the point that I named my first car Christine because several things went in that never came back out. That sounds kind of creepy, but I generally didn't name my vehicles. I mean, we named a couple of our cars when we were younger, but mostly it's kind of joking names. And Robert says, I looked at the movie Christine. The car shows that evil supernatural forces can't be stopped for good using man-made, let's see. And the car shows that evil supernatural forces can't be stopped for good using man-made devices, though. Well, yeah, it's right. These movies and stuff always show like, yeah, evil is an unstoppable force and good is basically incompetent people. Um, you go with what you know best, indeed. Dinner Bell says, I grew up with no religion and tend to gravitate to esteem Buddhist Zen. However, I've had multiple paranormal experiences that clearly say there's more going on. Well, and that's where like some people believe, and that's where agnosticism is very popular because agnosticism, for the most part, like I know that everybody likes to redefine things as time goes on over and over and over. When I was younger, and yes, I know I'm old now, but when I was young, generally speaking, an agnostic person was someone who said, "Yes, I believe there's something out there. No, I don't know what it is." You know, I understand that there's some kind of supernatural force or there's maybe some kind of God, but I don't necessarily believe that we have any kind of clue as to what that God is. We don't have any kind of understanding of it, that kind of thing. That's really what agnosticism as a theological stance was. In the modern context, we're trying to be more precise with our terminology. Agnosticism is just basically neither atheist nor theist. So an agnostic is a person who neither claims that there is or is not a God. So an agnostic is the only truly rational person if you want to go on pure rationality. However, also the only person who what are you doing? Why are you biting my keyboard? But I also don't. I believe the only person who has no passion. Samson Simpson says all theists are pretty much stupid. Well, then you must think I'm stupid. But I don't think I'm stupid. I mean, granted, my brain doesn't work exactly on all thrusters like it used to. But I still would dare say that I'm on the high side of average. And I think that and I will say this, Samson. Um, you may genuinely believe that, but then you're a fool. And I will say that you're a fool not because you're wrong about your position on theology. You're a fool for thinking that those you oppose are stupid out of hand. Because the most foolish thing you can do if you are engaging a group of people in debate or any other kind of combat is to underestimate them and to simply write them off as being stupid. Then you're underestimating them, and you're basically proving that point about yourself. LDG is in the house and says, good morning. How you doing, LD? Hope you haven't broken any chairs lately, but good to see you. Samson says, hey, let me have your child for years because God said I should have it. Who says that? I'm not sure. Yeah, named the car way back in 95. And says that is pretty stupid. I'm not sure where yeah, I'm not sure where you're getting that from. Aberdeen says in John 22:23, when Jesus gives the HS. I'm not sure what the AC. Average Joe, I'm not good with abbreviations like that. He tells his disciples, "Sins you forgive are forgiven, and sins you retain are retained." Thoughts. When he gives the HS. Well, now I'm going to have to look it up. So let's see. So let me look it up. John 20. And we'll go to Bible Gateway because that's the easiest right now. And we'll do the NIV. He said 22:23. And when he said this, he breathed on them and said unto them, receive ye the Holy Ghost. Oh, okay, the Holy Spirit. I thought this was the NIV. You see, oh, is that the NIV, not the King James? All right. All right, let's back it up a little bit. And so this is Jesus appearing to the disciples. Get a little bit better context on it. So starting at verse 19, on the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. After this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Now, he showed them his hands and his side to prove who he was, because, of course, he had holes in his hands and his side. Again, Jesus said, peace be with you. As his Father had sent me, I am sending you. And with that, he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven. And then it moves on, says Jesus, and appeared to Thomas. So it's basically saying that, at least in this particular passage, that if you, as with to the disciples specifically, is that they could go around and forgive any sin. And that if they go around and forgive anyone's sins, those sins are forgiven. If they don't, then they're not forgiven. I mean, I'm not sure what you're asking for my opinion on. I mean, this text is fairly straightforward. We could go into a deeper word study on it, but I'm sure it means what it says. But I think that where the confusion comes in is people get confused about just because the disciples had a level of authority higher than other man, that somehow that means something different for us. Like if the disciples could forgive, and I think this is where the Catholic Church gets the idea that the priests need to forgive our sins for us, because what these disciples were doing was going out into the world, forgiving any sins, but they were also instructing people on how to pray to God for, to repent and all that, all the good Christian message and all that. But they were also acting on a higher level of authority that any people had before or since. Sorry if I sound a little rambly there, Aberjam, but does that kind of cover what you were asking about? Wesley's in the house, up early. Good to see you, Wes. BK says, do you feel from what you know from the meaning of Psalms 137:9, is your enemy to spite you? Will you literally spike your kid against the stones? Wow. So this is going to turn into biblical roulette today. All right, let's look that one up. We got Psalms 137. All right, 137:9 is what you said. So, happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks, is what that specific verse says. Now, that verse sounds horrible, right? Now, keep in mind, and this is something to remember with a verse like this. This is not a prescriptive verse. This is not suggesting that, hey, you know what you should do? Slam kids against rocks because that'll make you happy. What this is saying is that if your enemy seizes your kids and dashes them against the rocks, they will be happy. Well, yeah, because that's and keep in mind you need to look at the context of the of that particular passage, because this psalm is written about Babylon and the destruction of Babylon. The but happiness is a fleeting thing, and to say that your enemy is happy when they destroy you, or your enemy is happy when they kill you or kill your children or whatever, nothing false about that. But a person who sees, if your enemy seizes you or seizes your children and commits murder against you, yeah, it fills them with happiness. But that doesn't mean that you do it to them. That's where the prescription part comes into play. And there's nothing here that says, oh, by the way, you should turn around and do that to them too. It says, happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infant and dashes them against the rocks. They're taking revenge against you. This is not prescription for you to take revenge against them. And you also have to take into account whether it's Old or New Testament, whether or not this is under the Old or New Covenant, all that good stuff. Which clearly this is Old Covenant. But the in either case, it's still not prescriptive. This is descriptive of someone else being happy about getting their revenge against you. This would be like saying that Khan was happy when he stranded Kirk in the center of Regular One. Well, of course he was. So Trust says, I wonder if there's something of God we all feel but are completely, but not completely aware because we felt it our whole life. And if that feeling was removed, it would affect us deeply. I think there is. But I also think that we get obsessed, Trust, and I think this is a major problem. I think we get obsessed with feelings. We're looking for, don't get me wrong, feelings are great. Feelings are nice. Feeling good is wonderful. But Christianity isn't just about the feels. And so when we're sitting there obsessing over, do I feel the Holy Spirit? Do I feel God? Do I feel warm and fuzzy? Do I feel this? Do I feel this? Instead of simply looking at, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be thinking? What am I supposed to be actually, what are my actions supposed to be? I'm so busy worried about my feelings, I'm forgetting about the fact that Christianity isn't about feelings. I'm so worried about, and this is a problem we see in churches. It's funny because as a pastor online that I have a lot of respect for, Mike Winger, I don't agree with him on everything he does, but most of the time on his theological stuff, most of the time I do agree with him. And a person was questioning him, asking him about, hey, I just don't feel the presence of the Lord at the church that I'm at. And so he was like, where does it say in the Bible that you're going to feel the presence of the Lord? It says, where 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm there with you. It doesn't say, where 2 or 3 are gathered, you'll feel my presence. Right? So we need to get the whole feeling business out of it and just get into the doing business. Sorry, a little diatribe there. And Wesley says, when people say silly things like Sky Daddy, God does not live in the sky or space for that matter. That's true. Orville says, man, ever since Father Joe left this Sunday service, just isn't the same. I'm sorry, Orville. Aberjam says, have you tried Blue Letter Bible? I find good study tools, concordance, Greek, Hebrew, lexicon, etc. Well, I have my concordance and stuff on the shelf behind me next to Baby Yoda up there. But which, well, you can see some of it if I move the camera a little bit, but I don't have a Blue Letter Bible. I'm not sure why you're asking. I've not even heard that one before. But I'm sure that you're going to probably laugh at me. Maybe that's a UK thing. However, was it you, Aberjam, or was it someone else that suggested, and I actually took you up on it because I haven't bought a new Bible in a while. And so picked this up, brand new Bible here, off of Amazon. And so and thank you. I think it was you, Aberjam, but I can't remember for sure. But this is the Holman Christian Standard Bible, my current favorite translation, in very, very large print. And so this is nice because I can actually sit back and relax and read this one without too much difficulty. And that's been my biggest problem for study time for me lately. It's not the lack of materials, it's the lack of the physical ability to read it. And so, because, as I drop things on the floor, anybody that owns that type of stuff knows, the text in an exhaustive concordance and stuff like that is generally very small. Let's see. I honestly feel that Psalms 137:9 means that true evil exists in everyone, and that's all too easy to fall prey in our basic instincts. Well, to me, like I said, it's just, yeah, people are happy when they take revenge. Happiness is different than joy, and that's something that we don't recognize. Joy is something a little more permanent than happiness. Happiness is situational. We all get happy when something pleasing happens or pleasurable happens, and revenge is one of those things, right? If we get the bad guy, and if we get what we want, that makes us happy, and it's not always a bad thing, right? Like, for example, T'Pring here, right? T'Pring's a very sweet puppy, right? And when, T'Pring, when we got T'Pring, it made me happy because T'Pring's a very sweet puppy. Now, is T'Pring bad? No. But, the difference between happiness and joy is that joy is with you regardless of whether or not you have a puppy. All right. For one, the spot on yes, for once, for an on the spot answer, you covered it pretty well. It's pretty long and deep study. Thanks, Average. I've tried to do the best I can with what little faculties I've got left here. And Orville says, happy Halloween, everyone. I see Salty's already wearing his costume. Jerk. I tell ya. And let's see. Samson says, why choose to die on the baby killing hill? Why choose to die on the baby killing hill? That question doesn't even make sense. BK says, feeling good is awesome. Making someone else happy is an even better feeling. Agree 100%. I watch Mike Winger as well. Yeah, Mike Winger is pretty smart cookie. There's some things that he says that I'm like, okay, Mike, no. But most of his base theological stuff is hard to argue with. Samson says, it's really simple. You and your God support killing children. Literally, remember Passover. Yeah, first of all, don't tell me what me and my God support, because you don't know me. You know, I know you think you want, look, if you want to have a conversation, Samson, I'm all down for that. I really am. If you want to be a dick and just come on here and start spouting a bunch of accusational BS, take it somewhere else. You're not going to get a rise out of me. You're not going to say something that's going to be shocking to me, because guess what? I'm an actual human being, and I've heard this crap before, and I don't give a crap about your stupid gotcha questions that really don't mean jack to me. All right? You want to sit there and say, oh, well, there's bad things in the Bible. Yeah, you know what? So what? Hey, guess what? Do you have one argument in support of atheism? Give me one. I will deconvert right now if you can give me one argument in support of atheism. A single argument in support of atheism, I will deconvert on the spot on this live stream right now. Orville says, you know I love your Sunday stream, Salty. I think it's great. I know, Orville. I know. I just give you a hard time, PJ. I wonder how many Bibles Amazon has sold. That's a good question. Probably quite a few, though. It is the #1 selling book of all time. Giant Homo is my recommend. You're welcome. Yes. So thank you, Aberjam. And Professor Brady Specs is at the laundromat now. Laundromat watch engaged. Wesley wants to know if he's trying to be serious or a troll. I think he's just a troll. That's why I challenge him. Give me that argument, Samson. I'll deconvert. He knows he can't do it, but you know. How many Bibles been sold? 2020 Guinness Book of World Records says the total number sold is likely to be 5 billion Bibles. Wow. Hey, Feds in the house says, I found Bibles were studied with, I found the Bibles we studied with when I was a lad were painfully tiny print, both Cyrillic and English. Also, technically, you are on the air since most people use Wi-Fi. Well, that's actually, you're the first person to actually answer the question in the name of the stream. Yeah, I guess Wi-Fi would kind of count as on the air, but I just didn't know if technically you consider it, because, and it's a webcast, not a broadcast, so you know. Thank you for showing us the pring. She's cute. You're welcome. She is an adorable little bit. You know what? The funny thing is, she's perfect for Halloween because she looks like a bat without wings. Don't you think? She looks like, and actually very specific. She looks like a. Look at the camera. The camera's over here. See, she looks like. Stop looking to the side. She looks like a fox bat without wings. Look up a fox bat. She looks like a fox bat without wings, except she's like the cuter version. Let's see. Let's see. Samson says atheism does not kill children. That's not an argument for atheism. And by the way, Stalin killed children. So atheism does kill children. So, you know, don't tell me that atheism does not kill children. Plenty of children have been killed in the name of atheism. So, again, just give me an argument for atheism. That's not an argument for atheism. That's just an argument that atheism does not do something. That's not an argument for atheism. That'd be like me saying, oh, an argument for Christianity. Christianity isn't devil worship. You know, Christianity isn't human sacrifice. Therefore, be a Christian. That's the equivalent of your argument just now. I don't think Aberjamie's trying to justify hatred of God. I think that he's just one of these pop atheist followers. Like he follows channels like Thunderfoot or Aaron Ra, these types of guys who have this extremely limited view of Christianity that basically comes from the Richard Dawkins view of Christianity. They think that if you look at Westboro Baptist Church and you think that's what Christianity is, then, and you just try to pigeonhole all Christians as being that type of person, and you demonize and dehumanize Christians as being that, then somehow that makes you superior. Whatever. You know, you want to be a hate monger, you go right ahead. I don't have time for hate. I don't hate Samson any more than I hate anybody else. But I welcome the challenge for an argument for atheism. Atheism does not kill children is not an argument for atheism. That's an argument for something atheism does not do. That's not an argument for the truth of atheism. And yes, he does need your prayers. I would agree. Anybody who is a believer, please keep Samson Simpson in your prayers. God literally kills children and as punishment, deal with it. So you acknowledge that God exists. Okay, I win. The end. Stanley says, put some wings on her. I thought about it, but I couldn't find any small enough for her. JD says, atheism kills thousands of children a year. Why would children be valuable as an atheist? I don't know if you can make out my YouTube picture, but that's my Daisy. She's a Jack Russell. No, I couldn't quite make it out because I can barely see the screen as it is. Let's see. Fed said, that's my lot, answering questions both grand and silly. I do accept my apologies, but I have to answer and duck out one to show my face, metaphorically. Death to Karoga. No problem, Fed. Take care, my friend. Let's see. Sam says, God literally killed kids. Even if Stalin was a god, and he then also killed kids. Okay, so you are then acknowledging God exists, and so you lose. Because if God exists, then if you're acknowledging that the Christian God exists, then you're acknowledging Christianity is true, you lose. I don't understand. What are you arguing against? You can't, if you want to acknowledge that God exists, then, and Lord, do not say atheism sucks. We're not going to stoop down to his level. But seriously, Samson, you just said God literally killed kids. Even if Stalin was a god, then he also killed kids. So that statement right there, you are acknowledging the existence, the actual literal existence of God. If you are going to acknowledge the existence of God, if you are going to say that the Christian God exists, you just lost the argument. It is game over at that point. So have a nice day. Take care. Go on, travel along, do whatever. Why don't you log into one of your sock accounts and try again later? Wesley said, if God gave life, then God can take it back. That's true, but it doesn't matter, Wes. You don't have to justify it at this point. He already, he just acknowledged that God exists. And so, that's the problem. Atheism cannot exist because my challenge to him was to give an argument for atheism. Atheism would, in order for atheism to be true, there can be no God. Well, he just acknowledged God exists. Therefore, he just acknowledged atheism is false. So, bam. You are the hate being. I don't even know what that means. And because, Samson, I love you, man. And I can say that with absolute sincerity. I care about you. I want you to go to heaven. I absolutely do care about you. If I hated you, let me, and I will tell you this straight up. If I actually had any kind of disdain for you, if I had any kind of hatred for you or negative emotion towards you, you know how difficult it would be for me to simply end this conversation, because all I would have to do is click on the little three dots by your name and kick you. It's not like I haven't done it before. And by the way, any of my mods could do the same, right? Which I have plenty of mods. And by the way, most of my mods, but not all, are Christians, but some of my mods are atheists. And you know what? If you came on and you started being a complete over the top a-hole, right? You were just like spouting all sorts of hate, they would have kicked you immediately. But do you know why they didn't kick you? You weren't obscene. You weren't doing anything outwardly threatening or anything like that. You were just kind of, being accusatory, but you weren't doing anything anything overtly bad. And so they just figured they would let it go unless I said something. Well, guess what? If we hated you so much, you wouldn't be here. But whatever, dude. 9/11 proves God kills. Okay, so again, you're acknowledging God exists. You say God exists, you admitted you're not a true atheist. Yeah, you're not. He's not an atheist at all if he thinks 9/11 proves God kills. And by the way, the only thing 9/11 proves is that Islamic radicals kill. I mean, you can, and by the way, if you want to talk about some crazy homegrown terrorists like the Oklahoma City bomber, you could say that, yeah, radicals of all stripes kill. I'm not saying that the Muslim radicals are the only radicals, for sure. But radicals of any ideology will kill. But that's the only thing 9/11 proves. I mean, here, let me do your job for you. Because 9/11 doesn't prove God kills. 9/11 proves that, here's how you phrase it. Religion can be used to sway people to kill. See, that's the argument you're supposed to use. That's the argument that Richard, what was his name? Now I'm forgetting his name. Oh, he was a great debater. Christopher Hitchens. That's the one he would use. Is that, the Christopher Hitchens would talk about how religion can be used to convince people to do the most horrific things, right? And 9/11 is a great example of that, right? That's a good argument. It's still a flawed one, but it's a better argument than just saying 9/11 proves God kills. See, I'm doing your homework for you, buddy. The fact that Samson is unintentionally implying that God exists, why I believe he hates God and trying to justify his hatred to himself. I understand where you're coming from with that, Amberjam, and I think there's a grain of truth to that, but I'm trying not to be insulting to him because I'm sure he would find that personally insulting. And Dinnerbell says, dang it, Bones, how do I stop the hate being? I'm not sure how you stop being a hate being. Indy says, Samson sounds like a younger person with his short stab arguments that don't have any deep thought. By the way, you should take that from Indy Tiger, who is a atheist. Whether we agree or disagree on God, we all need to love each other. I agree with you on that, PJ. Again, stating that he existence of God is fact. I know. Look, God kills children. Fact. Yeah. Great. And again, and I know a couple of people have said it already, but let me ask you, and again, serious question, Samson, if you can calm down for a second and whatever you're about to type, forget it for a second and think about this for a second. If you, not talking about God, forget about God for a second. If you create a universe, say on your computer, and so you create this virtual universe as a running computer program, And then you decide, you know what? I don't like the way that this subroutine is running. I'm going to delete it and replace it with a new one. Is that murder? Is that morally wrong? Because from God's perspective, that's all life and death is for us. Now, granted, God cares about us, and that's there's fortunately, he genuinely does express a genuine love and warmth directed at us. But as far as rights and all that, God kills people. Yeah, it's his universe. And I know someone mentioned it earlier. So you make it sound like it's this moral affront. But if you built something, do you not have the right to unbuild it? And it's a serious question. I don't know how you feel about that. But does a person have property rights? And does that extend to the Creator? JD says atheism has no basis for saying humans have intrinsic value. We have no more intrinsic value than any other configuration of stardust. Well, I would say this. The humans would have no more intrinsic value than any other life form, at the very least. Like you could say that, like, there's no, like, and that's why some, particularly far left atheists tend to believe that humanity is like a disease on the planet. And from their perspective, they would be 100% right. Look at what cities are like a disease on the planet from a naturalistic perspective. God didn't kill the ones people did. Well, don't tell them the truth. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. Passover literally shows that God kills kids. We believe in that guy. Okay. Stop believing in a God and accept that God. Stop believing in a God and accept that God kills kids. You're contradicting yourself. Do you know? I mean, Samson. I don't know. I wonder if Samson's just a bot at this point. I think Samson's just a bot. Honestly, because I don't think Samson is. I'll say this. I think he's an effective bot, but I think he's just a bot. I don't think Samson is a human being at all. And I'll wait until Samson actually responds to something I say before we continue this. And please, I will ask all of you, refrain from any more comments to Samson until he responds to something we say, because I am not convinced Samson is a human being at this point. And if he doesn't respond to anything we say, then we'll just get rid of him. I feel that religion is a sword. It can be used to kill. Faith doesn't kill. Fanatics kill. Well, I don't think religion, religion can be used, but it's not religion. It's ideology, BK. It's any ideology. Think about this. It's religion is what is quickly pointed at as the blame stick, but liberals and conservatives do it all the time. I mean, look, I don't want to get too political here, but those people that stormed the Capitol building on January of this year in the United States, they were not doing it based on religion. Anyway, let's see. Average says, my assessment of him not based on insult, noise, and intent, and observation. I know, but I see. Like I said, I don't think he's a human being at this point. Indy says, atheists don't need to attack religions or people who believe in God. I respect all people until they give me a reason not to respect them. That's because, Indy, you're a decent human being, which, I wish everybody was. But unfortunately, they're just not. Mountains of Elysium says, greetings and blessings, Salty Checker and fellow nerds. Just listening as I do housework. Good to see you, Mountains. Wesley, you're repeating yourself, not making any sense. That's why I think he's a bot. And let's see. Lord M says, love and peace, pass the wheel. How you doing, Lord M? Robert says, let's remember Waco, Texas, what evil controlled government forces can do after all. And let's see. Norville Nation, going back and forth there. Indy Tiger says, I think you're right. Hasn't responded to anyone directly that I can see. Yeah, I think he's just, I think Samson is just a bot. I don't think he's responding to anybody directly. I think it's just putting out random anti-religious statements. Someone's like probably flagged this channel. Oh, it's a religious channel, so throw this crap out there. We'll give him a couple of minutes and then just, kick him. But it's if he's not a human being, and we'll flag it as a bot. Yeah, Passover 9/11, prove you're on the wrong side. See, he's saying the same crap. There's no human behind that. It's an easy out. It's easy to out a bot. Just let them repeat a random sentence. Yeah. Hey, Samson Simpson, say anything other than something about God. Like, what's your favorite pizza? It's a YouTube algorithm. And Bird, I'm not going to even acknowledge that. Oh, hey, but you actually put something in there. I wonder if your bot algorithm is designed to. Well, no, the reason we're calling you a bot is because you're not responding to anybody. You're just putting the same crap in over and over. Why don't you try responding to people having a conversation? The reason we're calling you a bot is because that's what you sound like. Nobody's ignoring you, dude. Or maybe you're so far behind in the stream because now you're putting stuff in from like 10 minutes ago. Yes, I know, little girl. Wesley's off to work. Later, friends. Have a great day. You too, Wes. Take care, buddy. It's a Tron, yes. No, those aren't arguments. That's the problem, Samson. Look, I don't know how old you are. All right, I don't. But I will tell you, you come across to me as being very young. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm saying that because you come across as very immature in your argumentation. You come across to me as someone who doesn't know how to properly phrase an argument. Because what you're doing is you're simply making, and I'm not saying this to be a jerk, I'm saying this because you're not making arguments, you're just making blanket statements. And these blanket statements are not even, they're not like, for example, let me go back and I'll just grab one at random. Passover and 9/11 prove you on the wrong side. First of all, that's bad grammar. Second of all, that's just false. Passover and 9/11 prove you on the wrong side. That's not an argument. And so if you want to make a cohesive argument, you need to tell us why that proves you're on the wrong side. So if you say, well, your God kills children, therefore your God bad, right? Okay, so now you're making a moral equivalency argument. But if you're trying to make an argument for atheism, that's the worst possible kind of argument for you to make. Because if you're going to try to make an argument based on the morality of God, you cannot make that argument without acknowledging the existence of God. And if God exists, then atheism is false. You see the contradiction there. I hope you do. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying this just to be a jerk. I'm saying this because your arguments are self-contradictory. You cannot argue for atheism if your position requires the existence of God. And most of your arguments that you've been using require the existence of God. Hey, Jordan. So I would highly recommend, and I'm saying this not as a friend, all right? See, and see, you're going right back to it. Are you listening to me? Because stop trying to just make these stupid arguments. Will you shut up for a minute and try to have a conversation with me? All right. Instead of trying to make everything, can you have a conversation with me that's not just you're wrong? Okay. Can you do that? Can you do that? Are you, and by the way, you may be way behind on the live stream. If you are, do me a favor and hit like the 2 times button so you can catch up, because you're so far behind that we're not having a conversation in real time, and this is going to drive me insane. And no, my defense is not that God does not exist. I'm saying that I'm not defending against your arguments at all. Your arguments are contradictory. Your arguments are nonsensical. I don't need to defend against an argument that doesn't... Look. Your argument is like saying, hey, potatoes suck, therefore you're wrong. What's the defense against that? You know? What is even, and I don't know where you're getting this crap. Probably some stupid atheist website that doesn't understand theology. Because, you know, I understand that you're probably like, you're probably taking some isolated incident from the Old Testament out of context without any kind of Bible study. What? I don't need to prove God exists to you. I asked you to make an argument for atheism. You still didn't do that. You came on to, look, Samson, let me make this clear. Okay. I'm gonna make this as simple and clear as possible. So please don't say anything for a minute. Let me make this clear to you. This is my YouTube channel. You came to my house. All right? I don't need to prove anything to you. You want to come into my house and stir up a bee's nest, you go right ahead, dude. But you know what? I don't have anything to prove to you. I don't give a crap about proving the world to anybody. I can sleep just fine at night. It's up to you to seek the truth. It's not up to me to prove to you that God exists. All right? It's not my job. And so if you want to run around and be a dick to people, well, that's you being a dick to people. And if you feel good about that, then I feel bad for you. I genuinely do. If you can actually, with a clean conscience, run around and just be a complete jerk to people, then I don't know how you do it. I genuinely don't know how you do it. How you run around. And granted, I understand that's what the internet does. It allows people to, with very, almost no repercussions, to go around and say whatever they want to say. And all that. My evidence is that God does not exist is this. My evidence that God does not exist is this. They're proven. See, what does that even mean? You're just throwing random crap out there. You don't have any evidence. You're just saying random stuff. Yeah, are you okay, man? I mean, do you... you sound like you seriously need some counseling or something. Well, Captain Trek, I know I'm giving this guy a lot of attention, but I'm actually at this point kind of getting worried about him. You know, there are some people that there are times when I know he's probably just a troll, but I don't. You know, it's funny because I think that Samson. I don't. You know, I worry about him because he's obviously confused, and doesn't, you know, can't get a coherent thought out, and so I don't know. And Stanley says, because there were bad things in the world, if there was God, then life would be perfect for everyone. Or is that heaven? Well, you know, that's funny because so I'll ignore Samson for a while until see if somebody let me know, just, you know, at Salty Trekker me if he starts to become coherent again. But that's Stanley. That's kind of a and I'm sure you did that on purpose. It's kind of a modernization of the classic problem of evil. And the problem of evil is an interesting one, but it's also, I mean, if you think about it, how could the world work without evil? You know? And I just, I feel bad for people that that can't wrap their heads around it, but they think that God, the creator of the universe, should in fact. Oh, I know you were being silly, Stan. I'm just using it as kind of a springboard to move into a different direction, since I'm trying to listen to the advice of my friends like Captain Trek, and trying to let Samson just dig his own grave with his stupidity. But anyway, the problem of evil is an interesting idea, but it's yeah, they actually, I kind of like they're dealing with the problem of evil with the in the Matrix, in that the first Matrix was a paradise, but it was a complete disaster because people wouldn't accept a perfect world. And so if and they actually, you know, as nicely as they did it in the Matrix, guess what? They also did it in Star Trek many years before, where Captain Kirk talked about the fact that man was never meant for paradise, right? That we always need a struggle. We always need something to fight against. That's how we grow as humans. That's how we become better. But the problem is that when we don't have a natural thing to fight against, we turn against each other. And that, I think, is our fallen nature. BK, that's an interesting statement. Evil cannot exist without good, just as atheism cannot exist without God. I look, I disagree with that statement to a certain extent. I would say this. I don't think that the problem that I've come up with is that I don't think the universe can exist without God. And I know that some of my atheist friends facepalm at that kind of statement, but I genuinely believe that. I don't think that. I genuinely don't think that the universe can exist. That existence itself can exist without God Himself. And like some people even get worked up over, well, why you call God a him, and why isn't it a she? And it's like, well, the Bible calls God he, and I'll just stick with that until I hear otherwise directly from him. You know, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But the if without a creator, then there's no explanation for the existence of the universe itself. Now, we have some interesting and frankly very bizarre theories on it. But most of those theories are frankly almost entirely speculation. And, yeah, they'll come up with some interesting mathematics to try and support it. But the problem is the mathematics are just designed to support it. It's not that, oh, look what I discovered. It's, oh, look, this math, let me write some math that supports my preconceived idea. And there's a difference between the two. It's like if I say, okay, I think there's a right angle, now let me figure out what that angle needs to be, as opposed to, I wonder what the angle should be, and then do the math. If there are many universes, does that mean there are many gods? That's an interesting question. I'll say this. I don't think, and I will also agree, Stan, I don't think God needs genders. I think that the he in the Bible is purely a matter of, designation. But it could have just as easily, if the Bible said she, we'd all be saying God the Mother or whatever. But that's that just happens to be the way that it is. I don't think that God has a cosmic penis. I think that God is just God goes by he as a matter of convention. In the same way that the Organians looked humanoid, right? They just did it so that Kirk and Spock and crew could see them as something they could recognize them, right? That's it. And as nerds, we should be able to understand that, right? And that's just basically it's a matter of convenience or a matter of convention, so that we have something that we can identify with. But yeah, the he in the Bible is a placeholder. I wouldn't even call it a placeholder. Like I said, I think it's just a matter of conventionality. It's just a matter of something that we have an easier time understanding. Because God doesn't need gender, because the idea of gender is presupposes the idea of reproduction, right? And God doesn't need to reproduce. But anyway, anyways, back to the idea of multiple gods if there are multiple universes. You get into, that's kind of where Mormon theology comes into play. They actually do believe in something like that. That they, my understanding, and I'm not an expert on Mormon theology, so please don't cite this as like some kind of in-depth Mormon study. But my understanding is basically the Reader's Digest version is that if you are a perfect Mormon, eventually that you will get your own universe to be a god of, and that our God is simply a former man from a prior universe who was a very good Mormon, and so and so they have a very interesting take on it. But that, in a sense, makes them very much polytheists. But the problem with that is that you still need to come back to a singular creator. You run into a very real problem if where you need you need to go back to a singular source. Otherwise, you run into the problem of infinite regress. Everything comes from a singular source. Sooner or later, as they said in Highlander, there can be only one. So, like the pantheon of the Greco-Roman gods, the whatever legendary or whatever theological ideas you have, it has to go back
God
to
of
one.
Goats $3. Just like teenage period. Better late than never. Greetings from the future.
Wow, Joseph, wow. That was horrible, buddy. But good to see you. So my favorite goat milk drinking fool is here. And Lancer says, I have to disagree. Jesus refers to God as the Father. Also, there was cults focused on a dark entity that was claimed to be the mother. The cult shared similarities with World War II Germans. Well, just because there were cults, I mean, like, there were people that believed, like, in Lilith and stuff like that. Just because there were cults that believed that crap doesn't make it true. And just because Jesus referred to the Father as the Father, I would say that's a conventionality as well. It doesn't mean that he had a cosmic penis. I don't think that God the Father has a cosmic penis. Sorry, I just don't. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when we die, and I tell you, I swear this will happen. When we die and we're before the great throne of judgment, if I see God sitting in the great throne and he has a great cosmic penis, I'm going to bust up laughing. And God's going to be like, what's going on? I said, well, I've been telling people that you did not have a great cosmic penis, and I was wrong. All right, so, so I do not. Well, BK, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I was trying to give. I've done a fairly extensive study on Mormonism, but I just don't want. I was just trying to be as brief as possible. And like I said, my brain is not firing on all thrusters. Hasn't been for some time. So I'm trying to do the best I can with what few brain cells I have still working. Sci-Fi Nation, good to see you. I saw you join a minute ago, but sorry I didn't say hi. Says, look at the times when the Bible was written. Women basically had no rights. So, of course, the men writing it would say he or him. It's funny you say that, because the Bible was actually a very progressive book. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that the Bible was like this horrible anti-woman book. But it really isn't. And in fact, the more you read it, the more you realize how progressive it is. Even like people say, oh, well, the old, there are certain social conventions that you'll find in the Bible, namely, mostly centered around marriage and the way that, but a lot of people don't stop to think about the fact that a lot of the laws and stuff were designed to protect women. And I'll tell you, like, there's so much there that people just misunderstand or take out of context, like with the whole being forced to marry your rapist thing. That is so I hate when people say kind of crap like that, because that's not what that verse says. Basically what it says is that if somebody is found to have forced themselves on a woman, that he has to marry her unless he's turned down by the girl's father, basically meaning that her family can say no. And because she does, unfortunately, that's the way the legal system works. She doesn't have the right to say no, but her father can. So she can turn around and say, Dad, I don't want this guy. Dad says, no, thank you. But what the idea there is to make it so that, don't you even think about forcing yourself on someone, because if you do, then you're going to have a lifelong commitment. It's not meant as a anti-woman law as much as a protection clause. But I understand a lot of people, they want to see it as being something other than what it is. Anyway, let's see. I can't believe you weren't there. What, when the Bible was written? Is that what you're saying? Is that... let's see. Random says, you mentioned the cosmic penis is no way better than my joke, period. I didn't say it was. I'm just, but come on. And Press Brain says, excuse me, what does God need with a starship? Well, I've been watching, because we're in a couple of weeks here, we're going to be watching Star Trek V, and I've been working on the edit for that, because we'll be watching the special Karoga cut of Star Trek V. And watching some of the behind the scenes stuff on that movie, as bad as the movie was, I think it might have been interesting to see William Shatner's original vision, where he actually has them meet Satan himself. But, oh well. Lance says, it wasn't Lilith, I don't want to say the name, but her symbol was a black sun. World War II Germans used a black sun also, and their religion had characteristics of a black hole. Well, I don't know that particular one then, Lancer, but, there have been multiple, cults surrounding the idea of, feminine forms of God and all that. Frankly, I don't find myself getting all worked up about it, because it's not important. It genuinely isn't. And that's just, we get worked up over the dumbest things. Stanley says, what does God need with a penis, even a cosmic one? Well, just to show off, I suppose. Star Trek V is proof that there is something fundamentally wrong with the universe. Yes, indeed. I would have to agree with you on that one. Abraham says, you're not following someone by choice. If you're not following someone by choice, you are not following. I'm not sure what that means. Kirk met Satan in the animated series, and he turned out to be a good alien. Well, the interesting thing about that, actually, is I just watched that one as well, nitpicking, because we'll be watching that particular episode of the animated series before Star Trek V. Because if you may have noticed that the before each movie, we've been watching the episode of the original series that most closely relates to that movie. So before the motion picture, we watched The Changeling. Before Star Trek II, we watched Space Seed. Before Star Trek III, we watched Spock's Brain. Before Star Trek IV, we're going to watch Tomorrow is Yesterday. Before Star Trek V, we're going to actually watch two things. We're going to watch The Way to Eden and The Magics of Megas 2. Because interestingly enough, those two episodes scrunched together are Star Trek V. Almost exactly. The Way to Eden is just a bunch of space hippies looking for Eden. And Spock even says that he believes in their quest, and at the end tells one of them that he hopes that they'll continue on their quest to find Eden, and he's sure that they'll find it eventually, and somehow forgets to mention that he has a brother that's out there looking for Eden. Yeah. But the and then in the magic and so in that one they find out that Eden is actually in Romulan space. And then in the Magics of Magus 2, we find out that in the center of the galaxy, just beyond the Great Barrier, is a magical realm where Satan lives, and Kirk saves Satan. Because why not? And they actually talk about that because they speculate at the end of the episode that that actually was Satan and that Kirk saved Satan. What will you watch before Star Trek 6 and 7? Also, is Matthew the only one that watches movies with you? Second question first. Is Matthew the only one who watches movies with you? Generally, yes. Although I may eventually do a series watch in the near future where we do, but not 100% sold on that yet. You better be careful. If you fall down, you could hurt yourself. Yeah, I'm talking to you. And so, and mainly this started almost exactly a year ago, the movie night thing, because Matthew had never seen Fright Night. And so we watched that together, and then we watched Dracula 2000, and then we were just like, you know what, let's watch another movie, and then let's watch another movie, and then at the end of the year, we decided, hey, let's watch the Sharknado movies. And so on December 31st, we watched the first two Sharknado movies, and then every other week we started watching another Sharknado movie, and then we were just like, okay, we got to keep going now, and we've been doing it ever since. Anyway, as far as before Star Trek 6, thinking about the Day of the Dove would be a good episode to watch before Star Trek 6. Star Trek 7, not sure if we're going to do that one or not. And do you think the entity that Kirk and company found at the end of Star Trek 5 could be an imprisoned Cytarian from the TNG episode Nth Degree? That's a possibility. Oh, you dummy. You see, you knocked it on the floor. So, here, play with your cow. Average says, Dan was suggesting that we are not meant to follow God because we have free will. My argument is that we have free will so that we can follow God. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, stop trying to pull it over there. I don't want you to not see. I see what you're doing there. Yeah. So you are doing the Catholic thing with Star Trek movies, playing supporting episodes from the Old Testament or New Testament letters before the gospel, just like Mass. Yes, indeed. We're at a Star Trek Mass. Oh, Lordy. Way to Eden seemed to be about cult leaders leading young people astray, at least to me. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, Dr. Severin was he was a cult leader. And the interesting thing is that the inspiration for William Shatner's story for Star Trek V was televangelists. He saw Sybok as being a televangelist. And so very similar themes. Neither particularly well executed. Way to Eden or Star Trek V. All right, I'll get your stupid turtle. Jeez. There's your turtle. You wanted your turtle? There. Let's see. BK says, "Have you? What is up with you? You're just a spaz all of a sudden. What? Why are you all of a sudden just a spaz?" I know. Have you read the Q series written by John DeLance? It explains the edge of the galaxy, the barriers, the center of the galaxy, plus the whole meaning of Star Trek V. Yeah, I saw you post that earlier. I'm sorry I didn't read it. No, I have not. And honestly, because of my dyslexia, I don't read very many books. Just being honest about it. I've heard they're very good, but I have not. Um, and next April, got to do some tornado movies for Tornado Awareness Week. Since Matthew's in Texas, when is tornado aware? What? Why are you attacking the microphone? What are you? Now you're attacking my beard. Capri needs her toys. She had her toys. This is her turtle that she loves so much. See? You want your turtle? Yeah, whatever. Spazzy dog. In Star Trek V, they're probably not the actual center of the galaxy since they got there in like an hour. In TNG, they were amazed to travel 30,000 light years to the center of what takes decades. Well, yeah, they're very inconsistent in Trek as far as travel times. What can you say? I mean, what? T'Pring needs the food trapped in your beard. You know what? She's just feeling really. I believe it's the second week in April. I'll have to try to remind me when we get close, Jordan. And where are you going now? You are just a spaz all of a sudden. You need to go to your kennel. Is that what it is? Because you seem to all of a sudden need to run like crazy. Wasn't it stated on screen that was... Yeah, they did say it's the Great Barrier to the center of the galaxy. They did specifically say that. So... And so that is the problem. I do not understand what kind of people can even think televangelists aren't just scam artists. Well, I'll say this. Do I think 100% of televangelists are scam artists? No. But the problem is that most of the easily recognizable ones sure are. And what because the problem you run into, and this is something actually our pastor talked about last night. Does large and successful for a church automatically mean fraudulent or bloated or wasteful? Or no, not necessarily. But a lot of it depends on, is the church being transparent? Is the church being upfront with how they're spending their money, what they're doing, and all that? If you see, for example, with the ministry of someone like Kenneth Copeland, right? Can't stand that guy as far as what he does. Who makes millions of dollars, flies around on private jets, makes ridiculous claims that he can control the weather and stuff like that. And tells people that are dirt poor that they should give him their money in order to deal with their poverty. Those people are just, I genuinely feel sorry for him when the day of judgment comes around. And honestly, people like that, I think, are either... I'll let you go on the floor there. I think that someone like Kenneth Copeland, he is either a... let me see. She's trying to get into her kennel, so let me let her in real quick. I'll be right back. So... She was just very, very thirsty. All right, so she's drinking like crazy right now. Anyway, so Kenneth Copeland, he does all this crazy stuff, and it's hurtful to the name of Jesus, right? People see Kenneth Copeland, and non-believers, of course, laugh, and believers either shake their head in shame or are duped into believing he's for real. And so that's just horrible. Hey, good job. You gonna rest, or you want to come back out? Okay, I'll let you back out. I gotta go get her again. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, you can run around if you want. Okay. She's going to be crazy now. So, Marty. But yeah, you see these people doing this absolutely Batwoman crazy stuff. To bring, you want to come here? Come here. What are you doing? All right. She's just like running. I wish you could see her. She is so ridiculously fast when she runs on the floor. And yeah, he'll claim that he can cure your baldness. He'll claim that he can cure your cancer. He'll claim that he can do just all sorts. And he has claimed to stop tornadoes and stuff like that. Come here. Frank, what are you doing? Come here, target. Oh, man. But, yeah, it's just really annoying. However, then you have large churches that aren't like that, right? That are just doing good works. And I think about our church. Now, our church is not nearly the size of like Kenneth Copeland's church or anything. Come here. Oh, all right. You're just going to run back and forth. Okay. And so with our church, we give away most of the money that we collect. We distribute it to various 501c3s, mostly in our local city, but then we also expand out to the rest of our state, a few in the Northeast. We own an orphanage in Uganda, one of the few places in the world that's as bad as Karoga. And we genuinely try to help make the world a better place. And we're not claiming to be like this huge world-changing organization. We're just trying to do what we can, and we're trying to support people as much as we can. We're trying to help people as much as we can. And that's what we do. And we're very open and transparent with our funds. If you want to know how much our pastor makes as far as his salary, you can walk up and ask him, and he will tell you. What are you doing? No. To bring. Do you need to go back in your kennel? I think you do. All right. This has been one of them days, isn't it? I think I'm going to have to rustle up to Pring because she is just going crazy. So I am going to need to wrap it up. But if I have some energy, I'm going to do another live stream later. Maybe a Diablo live stream. I haven't done that in a while. Mainly because I've been feeling so under the weather this week. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. To that one dude, the troll, can't remember his name now. The, what was it? Samson. Samson Simpson or whatever it was. Dude, get some help. Learn how to argue. Come back when you got your cerebral cortex in line or something, and we'll have a real argument. To the rest of you, take care, and yeah, maybe play some Diablo in a couple hours or something. In the meantime, remember, you are the salt of the earth, but I am the salty trekker. That's right, me, not you, me. Because, and I'm grumpy.